The military last week seeks power in Burkina Faso, saying it has deposed President Roch Kabore. The announcement was made on state television by an army officer who said both the government and parliament had been dissolved. Kabore's whereabouts were initially not known, but the officer said that all those detained were in a secure location. Several countries, including Nigeria, condemned the coup, which came a day after troops seized barracks and gunshots were heard in the capital, Ouagadougou. In the immediate aftermath of the military takeover, dozens of Burkinabes gathered in Ouagadougou to celebrate. Some of them say that the hope the coup will ease the devastation they had endured since jihadist violence spread across the country.
God has fulfilled our prayers. The army has answered the call of the population. The President Roch Kabore has been dismissed. Institutions were dissolved. The population is celebrating. It is a popular celebration. This is what we expected. The army in its different units has decided to manage the country, together with the people that were suffering for 7 years. To demand decals, to understand that it's the Burkina people that decide and demand the change.
We are expecting the new authorities to put first the aspirations of the population. We want security, we want the displaced people to go back to their villages. We want true reconciliation of all the people of Burkina Faso.
Meanwhile, Nigerian government has condemned the coup d'etat in Burkina Faso, calling for the immediate release of President President Kabore and other members of his government being detained by the military. Nigeria also demanded for the immediate return to status quo ante in Burkina Faso. On its own part, the United Nations says it is following developments in the West African country. For an update on interventions being made by West Africa Regional Bloc ECOWAS and the United Nations in pursuit of peace and normalcy in Burkina Faso, we are now being joined by Paul Ejime, a journalist, author, global affairs analyst, and an independent consultant to international organizations, including the European Union and ECOWAS on strategic communications, peace and security, and elections. Welcome to the program, Paul Ejime. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you, my brother Batty. Happy New Year. I don't think we have seen this year.
Okay. Yeah, Happy New Year. First time you are appearing on this program this year. But very quickly, ECOWAS has already suspended Burkina Faso. But do you think that the Burkina Faso stakeholders are going to respond like the Malians, who said ECOWAS can go to hell, AU can go to hell, and that they are here to save their country? What's your reading of the situation as someone who has been a consultant on peace and security in the West African region for decades?
So there is what many call regression of democracy because due mainly to bad elections, poor governance, and then corruption, and then the seat-tight syndrome that has taken up, many leaders have done that. You find Guinea, there was Cote d'Ivoire, and these other places that it has taken. And then the security issue. In Nigeria here, you have bandits or Boko Haram. In the Sahel, it is either Al-Qaeda, ISIS, ISWAP, and a whole lot of armed groups that have found what you call ungoverned space. And when you have that, what happens is that they use that as safe havens to begin to launch attack on Mali. Is now 3 countries that have where the military has taken over. Mali, in the case of Mali, the regime there said, Assimi Goïta Colonel, said that Keita, bless his soul, he passed on during all this crisis, has not been able to deliver on bringing security to the country. The same in Guinea, the same thing, Burkina Faso, because these armed groups have been killing both civilians and soldiers. In the case of Burkina Faso, dozens of soldiers were killed recently. And then President Kabore appears incapable or didn't have the will to deliver on security, which he promised. So it's a combination of a lot of things. And then when you leave the local or internal crisis, you now also find the external factor, particularly France, the former colonial power, which wants to dominate West Africa. It controls the economy, has military bases in this country, and continues to exploit their resources. So these are the factors that have now combined to put, it's not that it's only the Francophone. It can happen in Anglophone or Lusophone. But the point is that there is democracy. Those who are political leaders are not delivering. They are not leading. I think somebody called them rulers, that they are taking care of themselves and not about the people. So that is what has happened. It usually starts with a movement by the people, civilians. They go out, but these leaders come against them with strong arms, shooting and killing some of them. And that is where now the military jumps in, because they have the coercive power. They can use the weapon. So it is, but military rule, let's face it, is an aberration in the 21st century. But what has happened is that we have seen constitutional and political coups by the politicians. They change the constitution, they run elections that are flawed, and then they are corrupt, and they are not delivering on the benefits of democracy. That is the conspiracy. That is what has now conspired to put them. The issue is now where next, and who next will fall, and that is terrible. That is appalling. That is unfortunate. Where at a time when we think Africa and West Africa should be consolidating on democracy, it appears that we are losing the grips. And maybe we'll talk about the ECOWAS intervention, which they've come with suspension, sanctions. In the case of Mali, it is too harsh and punitive. And the Malians, even though the regime there in Mali has not covered itself in glory, they had in the past 17 months, where you have had 2 coups, they've not been able to put a transition program together. And so ECOWAS is now trying to say, well, let us come hard on these people. Perhaps others will not, other young soldiers will not emulate or copy them. But that has not worked. And I hope ECOWAS will learn its lessons, because this is not the first time that we are having coups in West Africa. It's been managed, with strategy, with some constructive engagement, using soft and hard power, and using carrot and stick, but not just slamming sanctions that will punish the millions of citizens instead of the coupists can take care of themselves. But what about 400 million citizens in the ECOWAS community? So whatever intervention is taking place should have that at the back of their mind.
Okay, if I get you right, you are not very happy with the sanctions that have been imposed because you think that will amount to punishing the people. However, in some of these countries, the people themselves more or less ask for the coups. Okay? But 5 countries in 18 months, Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, and Sudan. Now, what does this mean for democratic consolidation in Africa? And do you think that there is a French dimension in this? Because if you look at the countries involved, there are at least 3 former, French colonies involved. What should be the role of France? Or you think France is part of this problem? I have Professor Akinten who are listening intently on this conversation. And he wrote a piece on this today. Is there a French or if you like, a France dimension to it. Hello, Paul. Are you with me? Hello, Paul.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about, okay, is it for me? Okay.
Yes,
so
it's for you.
I think I have alluded to it, that France, the former colonial power, has a role, influence, and overbearing influence, I would say. Remember the French CFA francs, which about 14 or so African former colonies of France are using, former French colonies. And that is being controlled by the French treasury. And it's been said that it ensures that if somebody controls your economy, they control your life. In 2010, I wrote a piece about what I call the bitter lessons of flag independence. Because if you can't give somebody a goat or an animal, for instance, a cow, and then you are holding on to the rope, you have not done so. Political independence without economic independence is zero. And so France is capital. Anyway, let's face it now. France is pursuing its own national interest. So because they don't have the gun on the head of African leaders. Most of them are complicit because they have something to hide. The French leaders, if you're a French middle class or leader, and you don't have properties in France, then you have not started, or you are not marrying from France. So they are using that as leverage because somebody who has your money or your property can deal with you. So because of that, the leaders are no longer in a position to have an independent mind. They can't think critically because they are now kowtowing or listening to what France has to say, and that is what that has played large in the political scene of who governs, because France will want to have somebody who will play their own music, and if you can't, they will do everything to remove such a person. But the major responsibility lies with the African leaders. When will Africa become independent? We've had independence, most of them, for 60 years. Why is it that they are now listening to Paris for direction? So it is a slight and a big... so governance is about service to the people. But it is not about serving yourself. It's about serving the collective. These leaders are not serving the collective. They are serving themselves and serving perhaps in league with colonial masters. Continuation of imperialism. And you mentioned it's the same thing, the same template that or method that appears to be playing out in Mali, in Guinea, and then now Burkina Faso, and then who next? But let me also warn that this might not just be a Francophone affair. The erosion of democracy is not only in the Francophone. If I respect no phone, whether Francophone, Anglophone, or Lusophone, it is about service. It is you don't have, you don't deliver, you don't give the people what they want. Protection of life and property, well-being, welfare of the people, infrastructure, health facility, education, and so on and so forth. For instance, the insecurity in the Sahel, including in Nigeria, has made it impossible for people to go to farm. So you can't even feed yourself. And so you ask, where is the government? What is happening to governance? I think that is the issue. It is not about, democracy is not about just having elections. It goes beyond that. And what these leaders have done is that they have used the principle of democracy, the structure of democracy, to find a way around it. They hold elections, sham elections, regular elections they call it. But they are also fiddling with the legal instruments, the framework. And so that eating deep into the fabrics and foundation of democracy. I think Africa will have to watch it, particularly West Africa.
Okay.
We can't afford the period where you have governments in the city and then government in the bush.
Okay, Paul.
I thought we had passed that stage.
Okay, Paul, the next question to ask you is Africa losing the democratic battle? Because I've seen a particular meme that has been passed around, and it's here on my phone, le nouveau vaccin pour la libération de l'Afrique. Pour la liberté, Asimicin. So Asimicin is now being touted as the new medicine for Africa. Are we losing the democratic battle?
Yeah. Yes, and that is because of the poor governance system that the political leaders have brought. And then perhaps we need also to look at the democracy, how it is being, what is it about it? Oh, well, it's said that it is of all the systems that have been tried, it appears the one that has the greatest advantage because it gives you the opportunity to remove any leader that does not perform through election, through the ballot box. But if you cannot do it through the ballot box, if you make a peaceful change impossible, then violent change will become inevitable. You ask whether Africa is losing it. Perhaps yes, but it blame the practitioners, the politicians. And here again, the people will have to take back power because power belongs to the people. These rulers, not leaders, these commissioned agents, these people that are self-serving and are not looking at the collective but at themselves, selfish and wicked people because they don't care about the people. The people will now have to. Civil society, they seem to be sleeping. Let them rise and take power from this corps of leaders that we have today. Because if I'm asking, if this were the type of leader that we have when Africa was fighting for independence, I'm not sure that Africa will be able to will be liberated. And that is why when they are talking about Asimi sin. But military rule is not the answer. Perhaps it's a stopgap. We have seen it everywhere. We've seen it in Nigeria, in all these places. It is a stopgap that will provide for civil rule, civilian rule. Call it democracy. Perhaps Africa will have to fashion a name for its own, but it is about the basic are there. The basic, the fundamentals. If people govern and you can find food, you don't need to care. For instance, if things were running in Nigeria, you don't care about who are the people in Abuja. If in your village and my village, where everything is running, we have electricity, we have water, we have roads. I mean, anybody can be in Abuja, but where now people claim that they are in charge, but they are not catering to the needs, and then the welfare, security of the people, then this is not democracy. This is not governance. And I think the earlier and the better for Africa to think again and find whatever model they think they want to invent. Because even those who have been practicing democracy for long, for instance, America, you saw what Donald Trump did on January 6th. So it's a process. It is not, destination. It is not no silver bullet about it. You have to learn it. You have to grow and strengthen the institution. Not create strong men, but strong institutions. If the institution in America was not strong, today America will become like the third world. People are even asking whether Trump does not have an African gene that is pushing him to do what he's doing. But is that a problem of black people? Is it an African problem? We should overcome this, Ruben. People can learn from the mistakes of other people.
Well, I don't think
it is only a fool
I don't think it's about color.
Cannot learn from the mistake of others.
I don't think it's about color. It's more about power. Yes. Look at what Vladimir Putin is doing on the borders of Ukraine. But I'd like to thank you very much for joining us on this Live, this Sunday talk show.